everyone, welcome along to the VCO Esports studio with myself, Ben Constanduros. And as you know, every week this Monday we try and find a new and interesting person to talk to in the world of esports racing. That might be a driver, that might be an organizer, that might be a team manager. But we have noticed over the last year that so many more real world championships have got heavily involved in the world of esports racing. And tonight is a real honour to welcome the president of IMSA with us to discuss the involvement of IMSA in esports racing. So welcome along and thank you for joining us all the way from the United States, John Doonan.
Thanks so much, Ben. It's lovely to be with you. Exciting topic to talk about. So authentic and so much enthusiasm around it over the last year now, 13 months. Can't wait to dig in a little deeper with you.
That's exactly what we're going to do. Just have a little bit of a deep dive on the world of esports racing from your side in IMSA. Now, does the story really begin 12 months ago when we had the pandemic kick off and everybody crave a bit of motorsport, or has there been more history?
There certainly has been more history here at IMSA. You know, when I arrived 18 months ago, one of the initiatives, if you will, that was on my mind, which this team here has been in place. I inherited an amazing team. It was already on their radar. There have been many rights agreements. There have been many collaborations. But one of the things that I had in my mind is, you know, what do we do as an organization and what do we do for our sport to attract the next generation of participant, of team, of driver, of audience, you know, of fan. And I thought for sure that this space was a place of growth. I was teasing the staff and saying, you know, I didn't mean that we needed a global pandemic to really kick this off, but it certainly, I would suggest, took the curve and moved it straight up once the opportunity to race in reality was not there. And we have this now platform that's so authentic and so realistic. You know, so that's really the story. It was definitely percolating, but this launched it into outer space.
And where did your awareness that esports racing was this, not a golden ticket necessarily, but a real way of accessing perhaps a new generation, a new type of fan?
In my previous life, prior to joining IMSA, I had the opportunity to work at Mazda for 17 years. And iRacing really, you know, clipped along and developed as a real platform for driver training and driver development, which we did a lot of when I had the opportunity to be there. In the end of my time at Mazda, call it the last 2.5 or 3 years, when we launched the global MX-5 Cup car to the racing population, we simultaneously developed the sim version or the sim platform of the car, literally from on-track test day to a laboratory day the following day for our test drivers, Tom Long and Andrew Carbonell, to really explain that the experience they had on the track and the way the platform was, the car's balance, grip level, braking, power, was truly what they had just experienced 24 hours before the discussion with the iRacing team. So that's where I started to get a level of excitement about it as something that could be used as a tool to attract our next generation of fan as well as participant. And then clearly, as I say, you know, somebody put the battery cables on a year or so ago, and look what's happened. And so thrilled that we have this now, and you can just see it in the drivers. You know, just the other night, Scott Andrews is knackered after that race at Sebring, and the enthusiasm and the investment of time and energy and resources and rigs that drivers and manufacturers have taken hold of is really remarkable.
It was around 12 months ago where you guys instigated one of the first pro invitationals, really. If you look across all the various different real world championships, I feel like IMSA's invitational was quite early on. And did you find it was a bit of a slow burner with the teams and drivers, or was it very easy at that point to get them involved?
I think for us, we launched back again the IMSA Racing Pro Series last Thursday night at Sebring. And once the Mobile 1 12 Hours of Sebring could not take place in March of 2020, we just sprung into action. Our team here, Max, supported by the Marcoms team, David Pettit, just launched into putting together a 6-race championship, which bridged a gap for us when we couldn't be racing at the track. And as we built up our back to racing plan, the embrace of the drivers, the interest of the folks that wanted to compete, the interest among OEMs, our great partners at Lexus who race in our GTD category, literally carried their on-track liveries onto another make, such that their drivers could be competing. So people really embraced it. They took it seriously. We literally presented a trophy last November at Sebring to Bruno Spangler, our first iRacing Pro Series champion. And I think based on last Thursday night's race, now 2 platforms on track at the same time, the level of interest and excitement has not waned.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. The idea that in the first season, it was all GTD cars, but add that extra element with the LMP2 category, gave it another fascination.
It did. And, we're so pleased with our multi-class platform as it is today, with now 5 classes from DPI, LMP2, LMP3, GTD, and of course GTLM. But now to have what is already authentic have overtaking by the prototypes, closing speeds, traffic that everyone has to maneuver. It just adds another element of reality to the virtual world. And you saw it in the drivers that competed, had a split start like we did just a few weeks ago at the real 12-hour race. So I know it's going to continue to be refined. Companies like SimCraft, who've come on as our presenting partner of this, creating rigs that are full motion, taking data right off of the actual platform and applying it to the virtual world. It's who would have thought again that we would be at this place right now? And I know it's only going to continue to get better.
Yeah, so we've already talked about the idea that sim racing, esports racing, brings a new level of fan, but is there more to it? Is it bringing a new level of driver, attention to certain different drivers, business to business relationships, as well as simply, hey, we want to get that kid to watch our races?
Yeah, all of the above. In my previous life, again, we utilized one of many in the world, but Multimatic's driver in the loop simulator, such that our DPI drivers went to the sim the week of the race, worked for a couple of days at least, and developed a starting setup. 9 times out of 10, we showed up at the racetrack with that starting setup, and the engineers, of course, with their drivers, tried to refine that setup to optimize it for the race weekend, given the conditions. 9 times out of 10, it was very difficult to better what the sim told us. So I think the tool of simulation and the tool of these platforms being so realistic as a new piece of our sport. It's going to continue to grow, and it's going to continue to be part of not only driver preparation, but engineer preparation, and ultimately could be part of balance of performance down the road based on what people are finding in the sim. So definitely a lot of different ways that this tool can be used for next generation driver development by a manufacturer, engineers to refine the initial starting setup, or even go away from a weekend or have someone back at headquarters on a simulator if a session is rained out or there's an incident and the engineers couldn't try that next spring setting or that next ride height setting. Maybe you do it on the sim. You go back and explain to the team what that did, and maybe that's useful information to better the performance advantage on the other end.
Now we're talking about the kind of televised headline pro invitationals that you guys hosted last year and have begun hosting again this year. But more than that, your relationship with iRacing is multifaceted, because there is also a championship for sim races, I think more than one actually, supported by IMSA, for us to jump on every week and enter. How is that global relationship, and how important is it to have the likes of that IMSA Championship and also the special events that they host as well?
No question, they become even a deeper partner than we have been for the last several years. Again, you mentioned the commercial side of it, and they've really taken this across not only road racing, endurance, sports car racing, but so many other platforms on asphalt, on dirt. So they have a lot to be proud of what they've accomplished. I know their staff was extremely busy throughout 2020. Clearly, the pro invitationals are great, but I think to your point, these amateur or everyday participant opportunities just again put our product in the hands of people that are keen to be involved, our fans, or eventually want to be a participant themselves. And then you just add on. You mentioned the commercial side also of the number of companies that have seen this as an additional way to gain value out of their partnership, or a place that they can come in and be a partner of a race team or a driver and taste the sport, if you will, and put their name or their brand out in front of a new audience.
And are you seeing some drivers that have participated in the virtual Daytona 24 hours then end up switching on to your fantastic global coverage that the world can just tune into and interacting for the first time because they've learnt about it because they were participating on iRacing the week before?
100%. And one of the things I hope and pray someday we could get to is that while the live reality world, Rolex 24 at Daytona, is happening, there could be, once we're out of the pandemic and people can be on site, a Rolex 24 in a tent or in a infrastructure in the infield of iRacers or sim racing happening at the same time, such that Sunday afternoon, when the checkered flag comes out, there could be a podium for the drivers that have participated in a 24-hour race, literally on site, when the sights and the smells and the sounds of the actual race are going on right around them. I think the unique thing, and you see it on social media, is a driver that participated in an esport event, watching the real race, commenting on maybe their actual line through a corner or their experience over the course of a day to night transition and things like that. It's just going to continue to develop and unfold and become a greater tool as this new element of our business plan continues to grow.
Yeah, because you're only kind of allowed, what's your capacity for a grid? 50, 60 cars at Daytona, but you can have up to, you can have an unlimitless amount of iRacing participants across all different splits racing virtually. I think when I did the 24 hours at the start of the year on iRacing, I think it was like 8,000 participants. And I might be even making that up. I think it was a lot less than that. It's a huge number, right?
Yeah, massive interest from around the world. That's the beauty, right? You could be sitting in any country in the world, and with the proper connection, a proper setup, you can be in participating in there, and that's the cost-effective nature of it, and that's why it's such an amazing tool to put people right in the seat, right in the action. And once again, the number of cars, the Corvette C8R participating last week was amazing. You got Nick Tandy in there battling it out with Spangler and the boys in BMW, and to have the OEMs get so excited about their participation, making sure that their platform is accurate as it is on the racetrack. You start getting calls about BOP, not just in the real race, but in iRacing. People are taking it seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. It very much verifies the product when you've got the likes of BMW and Porsche treating it like real life. Let's talk about VCO a little bit, because recently you guys have signed a partnership as a presenting partner for it. And how does that relationship work, and what is VCO bringing to the party?
Well, it's definitely the production of the show, if you will. And I think one of the things that really struck me last March when it kicked off was that we had an audience that came not only to participate, but to watch. And they too were very moved by how realistic the event was. In fact, I had colleagues and friends that aren't involved in motorsport see a link that I posted on social media, tune in, and literally assume that it was a bunch of drivers and teams competing at Sebring. Because when you watch from an onboard camera, when you watch some of the footage, when you hear the announcers and what you all help produce and put out there, it might as well be the real thing. Outside of going to complete darkness and having fireworks at the end, you watch some of the onboards. You see the bumps certainly at Sebring and how absolutely realistic they are. That's the beauty, and can't thank the VCO team enough for what we kicked off last Thursday and what we're going to do here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, and Michelin Raceway here before we go back to racing in the middle of May.
And how important is it for you to have your IMSA Radio team with Radio Le Mans as the commentary team, rather than having commentators that perhaps your IMSA real world fans would not relate to?
Yeah, and again, the whole philosophy here is to make it as realistic as possible. And what John Heindow and the team at IMSA Radio have done for our platforms, for our fans globally over the last many years. John and I are dear friends, Jeremy Shaw, Shea Adam, of course. These folks have been our storytellers when we don't have a TV broadcast on a practice session or a qualifying. Now, of course, we've got that opportunity growing with NBC and our Track Pass and the NBC Sports app. But again, when someone tunes in, is able to watch the iRacing event and hear those same voices that they're accustomed to, it just makes it more authentic. And again, what we've done here, it was percolating and it was building up steam. But now, Max and the folks on our commercial and partnership side have really got a gem on their hands, enough that our corporate partners have come on as entitlement partners for the individual events. And again, a company like SimCraft sees the value in trying to market and showcase their brand and their product, not only to our pros who like to use it as a practice tool, but certainly our fans and our audience.
It does seem as though to you, John, authenticity is incredibly important. The blurring lines of virtual and real. Is that to say that going a different route with an arcade platform, for instance, wouldn't work as well for you guys at IMSA?
Well, I think so many companies have delved into video game or racing games. I do think that the simulator nature, the authentic aspect of driving the real platforms takes it to a new level. And when fans come to an IMSA event at a racetrack today, it's our intent to give them a deep and well-rooted experience, to take their passion that they've had for the automobile and make it a lifelong partnership, if you will, as a fan or as a part of our audience. And so when you do that for real, I think it's fair that we would expect the virtual to be as close to that as we can. If someone is unable to be with us in person at an event, my hope would be that their experience in the virtual world was as close as possible to the real thing. And that's what I mean about potentially having an event someday on site while the actual race is going on around them, because I think, you know what it's like, Ben, when you're at the track and, after so many hours, the smell of carbon brakes, the noise, the smell of tires, or, with all the things that come with being at the racetrack, to feel the speed and to hear it, there's nothing like it. And so we want to replicate that to the best of our abilities for our folks that can join us in the virtual world, but definitely love being back at the racetrack. We're so honored that we could finish the 2020 championship in total. And we've got 2 great races under our belts already. And we're headed to Mid-Ohio next here in about, less than 30 days.
Just one last question then on this kind of this blurring virtual real world and this idea of having a 24 hours on site alongside the real 24 hours. You've got your Pro Invitational Series where you've got your pro real world drivers racing against each other, and you've got your special events, you've got your IMSA Championship in iRacing. Is there any plans, is there any idea to try and bring the two together in a way that sports car racing does very well, having multi-driver cars? You've got the cars, you've got the setup of the events. Could we see an IMSA Championship like the VCO Pro Sim Series where you have a virtual and a real-world driver joining forces and participating?
I think that's a long-term home run, Ben. It's, of course, time, energy, resources to pull it off. But I would agree with you 100% that down the road, that is something that we could see. I'd certainly love to see it for our sport and for IMSA and for those who participate. And I know our full-time pro drivers would definitely embrace that opportunity to be a part of bringing the next generation of talent in, or engaging with our audience and our fans. So you certainly have my vote that could be a possibility down the road. And we'll certainly continue to do everything we can to develop this as a platform and as a storytelling opportunity.
John, it's so great to speak to a man with so much passion for sim racing in such an important place in the global world of motorsport. And really a huge thank you for sharing some of your thoughts with us here at VCO. And we cannot wait to continue to support and follow everything that's going on with IMSA in sim racing.
Thank you, Ben. And again, kudos to the VCO team. Great job last Thursday night to kick it off. Got 2 more races coming up here within a matter of a few weeks, and really appreciate it, and appreciate everybody that tuned in and watched. Can't wait for the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you very much to John Doonan, the IMSA president. And as he says, we will be presenting the second round of the Pro Invitational from IMSA on Thursday. And make sure you tune in to everything on our VCO platforms. There's so much motorsport going on from the virtual world every week on our YouTube channel and across all of our social channels. So thank you very much to John. Thank you very much to all of you guys for having a listen. And as you know, every Monday we'll bring you a new guest. I still don't know who next week will be, so you'll just have to tune in. Until then, enjoy your sim racing. Bye-bye.